So we know you guys start off the season here, obviously, with Kansas City tomorrow night, but you get week one on Sunday night. You get the Cowboys for this game. And we always have our own ideas about what's the biggest storyline. Like to us, the Mike McCarthy call and plays is such a huge angle for us here locally. But then we obviously wonder about stories like, oh, is Donovan Wilson, their safety, going to be available to play? But when you head into this game on Sunday night, for you guys on the national broadcast, what are the big national storylines to you that say, hey, this is something that's going to be of interest to a national audience about the Dallas Cowboys this year?
You know what? You hit on one of the big ones. I think when you get into the micro of the year, right, and you start looking, okay, how are we going to deploy all these DBs? What's the impact of Gilmore going to be on Diggs, right, and the rest of the secondary as you move around, and how good they are, how many DBs are on the roster. This is like half a team of defensive backs here, right? So you got all that stuff that you always talk about. Offensive line health is a big factor, right, as you go into the year. How's Tyron Smith, can he hold up for a whole year? Steele coming off the ACL with the big deal. You got all that stuff, right? But at the big top of it is Mike McCarthy taking over the play calling. And what's this going to look like? Is it going to be more like we saw with Mike in Green Bay? Is it going to be something that leads to fewer turnovers and fewer picks for Dak? Because you go back through those picks, and several of those were his fault. He knows it. So his play's got to be good. And then if that's the big, bold one, the big, bold two is this running game going to be good enough? And that's not just offensive line. Tony Pollard's a good back. We know that. We saw him get 1,000 yards on less than 200 carries. It doesn't happen very often in the league. How good are they behind him, and how good will they be, not just for the Giants game, but for the rest of the season? I think this defense is good enough. I know this defense is good enough if it stays healthy. Will the offense be at that level? Will they be a better offense? They scored 27 a game. That's pretty good last year. Can they be just as good, if not better? Those are the two big headlines for me as I go into this start of the year for the Cowboys.
Mike, you mentioned Mike McCarthy, and I think the narrative on him has shifted to the point where it is like it's dang near insulting. I mean, I'm seeing lists where he's like outside the top 20 in coaches. He's treated as a bumbling idiot, and he's like one of the winningest coaches going right now is basically Sean Payton, and Sean Payton's viewed as a top 10 coach. Why has the narrative shifted so much on him?
I think it's interesting. I think it's the way it ended at Green Bay, and when it ended in Green Bay, it was truly star-driven. It was Aaron, right, and then Aaron, after that, goes on and has his own individual success with MVPs. So you say, okay, well, was Aaron Rodgers' ability making Mike McCarthy a better coach? I think when you look back at it, it got a little stale, but it was not because of Mike's inability to coach football. And then Mike goes out for a year and studies the game and looks at it a little bit differently. And now he comes here, and it took him a year to figure it out, And you've got to be wired differently to be the head coach in Dallas, right? You've got to just kind of coach football, and you can't worry about all the other stuff. Think of the situation Mike went from. He went from the situation with the least involvement from ownership because of the ownership structure in the community and the board there in Green Bay to, if not the most involved ownership level, with Jerry holding the title of GM as well, but also the most public ownership. The one owner who does interviews in the locker room after games on Sundays. You go a year without hearing from owners in other cities, and you hear from Jerry on this station once a week. You hear from Jerry after the game on Sundays. That's all unheard of with every other NFL team. So what does that mean for the head coach? You got to figure out your place. So Mike's had to do that. I think that was an adjustment. I think Mike now understands, coach the football team, do what I can, do what I understand. And I think that's part of taking over the play calling. If you're going to do this at age 59, I believe Mike is now, do it the way you want to do it on the football field and get the offense looking your way. When I was looking at cuts, right, I've got 2 games in a week here, and I did the Michigan game Saturday. So I'm doing 3 games in 9 days. So all I've been doing is like personnel for game 1, making sure you got all the right players. When I saw that the fullback from North Dakota State stayed on the roster, I said, okay, this is a Mike McCarthy offense now. Here's a fullback, and you're going to play him, and you're going to see him on special teams, and you're going to see him get a handoff here the first couple of weeks. And it just feels like it's more of Mike's kind of team. I think you're going to see that as the season goes on in the play calling on the offensive side.
Mike Tirico will be in the booth with Chris Collinsworth tomorrow night and Sunday night. NBC and Peacock. He's joining us here on 105.3 The Fan. Are you buying, selling, or holding the New York Giants this season?
Holding. I would say this team is better in year 2 than year 1 in personnel. Where they're better, I think, is up front. Leonard Williams is going into a contract year. Year 2 for Thibodeau, their edge rusher, did a good job. Against Dallas and Washington, Dallas has best games, which is what you want out of a first-round pick. Does Azeez Ojulari give them a better year 3? It was a second-round pick who was very, very good week 1 and was injured. Year 1, was injured year 2. Added A'Shawn Robinson, Rakeem Nunez-Roches. So you're better up front against the run. Their linebacking core was not good last year. That's improved significantly. Their question mark to me, guys, is they have 2 rookie corners. A first-round pick in Deonte Banks out of Maryland, and Trey Hawkins, a 6th-round pick out of ODU, who they saw most of the preseason and tested him. We'll see how much he plays. I'll be interested to go see those guys in a couple of days and see where he lines up, if that's still going to be their plan. But on the offensive side of the ball, I think they're better. Adding Darren Waller, if he's healthy, he's going to make Saquon Barkley better. Will make a receiving core a little bit better. And Daniel Jones now is solidified. He knows what he has. I think they'll be a little bit better offensively year 2, a little bit better defensively. So I would say I'm not buying them like they're one of the top 5 teams in the NFC. So I'd say hold, which was a team that was a player or 2 from being out of the playoffs and worked their way into the playoffs last year.
Yeah, Mike, when you look at the additions that the Giants made, specifically getting Paris Campbell in there, you mentioned Darren Waller. They also, it seemed like a real focus to try and build up Daniel Jones and try and build around him after they paid him. But also at the same time, I mean, they added an interior offensive lineman. They, looked to, they were trying to extend Saquon Barkley. So there's still some level of commitment to the run. What do you think the offensive identity is going to be for the Giants heading into Sunday night? Are they going to look to attack Dallas through the air and use some of those weapons? Do you think this is largely going to be the old New York football we've seen the last several years, and they're going to really lean on Saquon Barkley?
I think it's year 2 with the head coach who's a pretty good offensive coach. And I love what Brian Daboll did as he grew with Josh Allen. I think you're going to see that a little bit here with Daniel Jones. Remember last year they were doing 2 things. One, try to win games out. Evaluate what they had at quarterback. And, we don't think of Daniel Jones as one of those elite guys, and he's not. He's a good middle-tier quarterback at this point. And I think what adds a differentiation point is a quarterback coming off few mistakes, 5 picks, his best career completion percentage, most yards he's thrown for, but 5th in rushing for yards for a quarterback last year. So he gives you that element. And now you've given him Darren Waller, who is a mismatch problem. I'll be interested to see how often we see the Giants line up with 2 or 3 receivers to the left and just Waller isolated to either the left or the right. And watch Waller try to work mismatch. Now, the Cowboys have so many good matchups in their secondary. I think that becomes one of the intriguing matchups of the night. When we talk to the coordinators over the next day or 2 and see the teams, I'll be excited to hear how they're thinking about that and then watch that play out. But Waller will make Harris, the rookie who they have high hopes for, they'll make him better. They'll open up some space for Barkley that people were loading the box. Now you can run some zone read stuff with Daniel Jones in there. So those things all open up if you have a tight end mismatch on the field. Waller has been that. He only played 9 games, wasn't as healthy last year. Can he stay healthy and do that? To me, that changes everything we say about the Giants offensively as we go into this season.
Which franchise that can't get out of their own way lives up to their expectations this year, the Jets or Detroit?
It's a good question. I live in Michigan. I cannot tell you guys how many times. I'm so glad the summer's over because I'm sick of people asking me, do you think the Lions are for real, Mike? do you think this is the real deal? And I grew up a Jets fan. So both are – I've seen misery on both sides for many years of my life here. I would say if you made me believe in one of the 2, I would believe in Detroit, and I'll tell you why. I trust their offensive line a lot. I think it's a top 3 offensive line in the NFL, and they can run the ball, and Jared Goff with a clean pocket has proven to be a good quarterback, and I love their 2 rookie additions, Sam Laporta, the tight end, and Jahmyr Gibbs, who's a running back who I think they're going to line up all over the place. So because of that, I like that. Now, I love what Aaron's going to add to the Jets and the people who've come in. I don't know about the Jets' offensive line, and that is a big concern. I think the Jets' defense is outstanding. They were a top 5 defense. Robert Saleh from the San Francisco days, we know how good he is. I just don't know about the Jets' offensive line. If you ask me which one I feel better about going into the first couple of months of the season, it's Detroit because of their offensive line and the Jets because of their lack of one at this point.
Give us a hot take. Give us a Tirico prediction for this upcoming season. Someone you feel great about or someone that you think could be in for a little decline?
Man, I left ESPN. I'm out of the hot take business. I don't do that kid stuff anymore. I'll tell you, this isn't really a super hot take. I think Jacksonville's going to have a big year. I saw Peter King pick them as the number 1 seed. I don't know if they're that good, but man, we had them in the playoff game here in Kansas City, and I really like what they have done. I'll give you my surprise to some division winner, the Atlanta Falcons. I like what Archie Smith has built there, and I think offensively, look, every team in that division has questions, right? You start rifling through Tampa, the post-Brady era. They got a lot of guys who are either at the end of deals or they're starting to hit. It feels like a reset is beginning in Tampa. New Orleans offensively, can Carr elevate what they're doing? Will they get a big year out of Thomas and Kamara? I don't know. Carolina, the new quarterback, obviously will watch how he does in week 1 and through the season, but rookie quarterbacks generally don't make a run. I like Desmond Ridder. I had him in college in Cincinnati when they went to South Bend and beat the Irish. He's a really mature kid. I like his opportunity to grow. I love what they've added all the way across the board the last couple of years in the draft. Talented tight end, talented wide receiver. And Bijan Robinson's good. And this was a team that ran the heck out of the ball last year. So their style's a little bit different. I think Atlanta's going to be the team that will be the surprise winner of the NFC South. I don't know if that's the hot take you were looking for.
That's pretty warm.
It's warm.
All right, there you go. Good. As long as it qualifies as such. I don't think I'm going to get people screaming at me from the other side of the table for that one, but that's one I'd put a little stock into going into the year.
Hey, man, it's always an absolute treat for us to have you on. Big tune in from the Tolos. Thank you so much, Mike. Can't wait to see you starting tomorrow night and then again on Sunday. Thank you.
Guys, I was just thinking how lucky I am. We see the Chiefs yesterday, see the Lions today, our game Thursday night. We're coming down to Dallas to watch the Cowboys practice, meet with them on Friday, go see the Giants on Saturday, and then do the game on Sunday night. It is as good a start of the season as we can get. So we're fired up, and we look forward to seeing the Cowboys. Cowboys and Sunday night are magic, so we're all fired up. So great to talk to you. We'll talk to you during the year, I'm sure.
Thank you, Mike.